So, the stated purpose of this channel is to help you live a better life through preparedness based homesteading. And it really kind of started as a prepper type thing. And the reason I differentiate helping live a life we love living through preparedness based homesteading is we get so caught up in all of the prepper stuff and all of that I think we forget about what it is that we're actually trying to do. And that is build a life we love living. And in order to have a life we love living, it means we have to establish what we want our normal to be. That's the whole thing prepping is. It's continuing your normal when everyone else's stops. And in order for you to have a normal to continue, you got to establish what your normal is going to actually be. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to establish what we want as normal. Pay no attention to that mess in there. And although this started with preparedness, like a prepping type thing, we have to understand that the ultimate end goal of preparedness really is homesteading. You know, you start off at the survival game, and it doesn't matter how we got into it, whether that be through, you bought a gun and you started to look into the survival thing, or with the way the whole world's falling apart and these power outages that are everywhere, that doesn't really matter. What matters is you made the progression from buying all sorts of survival kits, hand-powered chainsaws, and dumping money into gear, on to the point where maybe you need to have something more long-term, like putting food on a shelf, things like that, and progressed to the point where you're really starting to produce as much of what you need off of the land that you have available. And I guess you could say that this channel is more of a lifestyle design channel than a preparedness channel or a homesteading channel. Because that's what I want you to do. I want everybody to design a life that they love living and integrate preparedness-based homesteading around that. And there's so much more that goes into all of this than just the guns and MREs and survival kits and everything like that. And that's kind of what I wanted to discuss today, is just those things that we do to help build that life we love living. Let's spend the day talking about those things. What are the other things that just improve your quality of life? Because why are you going to try to prepare for a life that you don't enjoy anyway? I'm talking about income. How can you get some more money? How can you improve your relationship with your kids? How can you improve your relationship with your wife? What about just making your home a nice place to live? Are you living at the place you want to? So let's just start there. Start with building a life we love living. And what I want to build for me may not be the same as it is for you. I don't know. We're all different people. We all have different needs. We all have different wants, desires. And let's focus on building that. Building a life we love. I keep saying that, but it is that important. And as much as I'd like to give specific examples of what you need to do for your life that's completely and totally different than mine, it's just not practical. But what I can say is start with the little things. It's the small things. Whatever the next correct thing is, that's probably what you should do. This pickup had some stuff sitting in the bed that y'all saw me unload a second ago. And it wasn't hurting anything sitting there. But you know what? I sat down with my son, who's right behind the camera right now. I said, what are we going to do productive today? I couldn't really think of anything. So I started with unloading the stuff out of the bed of the truck and putting it where it belonged. Little things like that. If you can't think of the next big step, think of the next practical step. Now I get out here, I look around, and look at this grass. This grass needs to be mowed. We're going to start next with mowing the yard. But I guess if I had to give you some examples, it would be the stuff that you always hear everybody say. Do what you can to get out of those flashpoint areas. Once you get out of those flashpoint areas, it's really nice to be able to come out to a place where you can really do whatever you want. We can do whatever we want out here since we moved to this piece of property a little over a year and a half ago. I can shoot my guns. I can park my truck in the yard. I can have the trailer that's sitting behind. If I see a deer walking through my yard and it's in season, I can shoot that deer. Having the freedom from people constantly breathing down your throat is unbelievably amazing. Let alone the fact that you're just separated from, all that flashpoint area. When things go south, they tend to go south first in population centers. So that's the first piece of advice I'd give, is get away from those population centers. Another big thing is eliminating consumer debt. I'm not the best person in the world to talk about that because it's something that I and, our family has struggled with. But we're doing what we can to actively knock that out as fast as we can. And I say consumer debt specifically. I don't have a problem with you having a debt on your mortgage. Taking a low interest loan on a mortgage, especially those people that have 2 and 3% loans, your cash sitting in a bank is losing more money than that to inflation. Taking on a debt for a business that you're going to start to buy a piece of equipment that's going to make you $5,000 extra every month for a $400 payment, that's probably not terrible debt. And I'm not going to scream about that. But the thing is, you've really got to use your head and look at the debt that you do have. What debt is reasonable and what debt is just dragging you down. So that's my next thing. Get rid of needless debt. If I had to move on to the next step, I'd probably say, build a basic emergency kit. And the one thing that people don't ever include in these is you need to have some cash on hand. You need to have enough cash so that if your tire blows out, it's a minor inconvenience and an opportunity to take care of something that you needed to do anyway, rather than something that just devastates you, where you don't know how you're going to, make the mortgage payment on the house or something. So $1,000 or $2,000 minimum needs to be part of that emergency kit. After that, can you make it a month without going to the grocery store? The grocery store is a little bit easier than the water. You got to have some water set back and a way to replenish your water, because I don't care who you are, you're not going to be able to store months of water. You've got to have a way to replenish that. So with that basic emergency kit, what does it take to power our home if the power goes out? We need power for everything. Buying a good generator, something in the under 5,000 watt range, the very first time your refrigerator or freezer goes out and you don't lose your entire supply of food that you had, the generator has paid for itself in leaps and bounds. Hold on, let me show you one of the things that I do. You need to have some fuel on hand. This is one of the cans that I need to go get filled back up. But if you buy one of these a month and label them 1 through 12, you have 60 gallons of fuel. They can get you back and forth to work, keep your fridge from thawing, keep the generator running. And once you get beyond that, there's just not a whole lot more that you'll need in fuel. But like I said, just buy one of them a month. Label them 1 through 12 at the beginning of every month. Dump it in the truck. Put it back there. And the next time you go to the gas station, refill it. That'll guarantee that your fuel that you've got stored is never over a year old. How are you going to cook all that food that you've saved up? For us, I'm going to be honest with you, our go-to power outage cooking solution is a Blackstone grill. It works great. Most people already have them. It's a no-brainer. It's not that hard to have you a fire pit sitting in your backyard. Another reason to get away from all those HOA Karens and stuff. Be able to cook something over a fire pit, we can do that. We've got camp stoves. We've got several different ways that we can cook if power goes out. Then we need to worry about sanitation. We are in a little bit different situation that a lot of you are probably in also, where we have a septic system, so we don't need to worry about the sewer necessarily. It does have its own set of problems with having a septic system, but it's pretty minor. But how are you going to handle sanitation so that everybody doesn't get sick and die of the dysentery like we're playing Oregon Trail or something? So having some sanitizer, some bleach, 10-to-1 mixture in bleach, left wet for 10 minutes will absolutely sterilize any surface you have. Just that hand sanitizer that we carried around for 5 years with us. Have some of that on hand. Have some Lysol, basic cleaning supplies. And discussing cleaning supplies, we also need to talk about dishes. Having some dishes that you can just throw away. Paper plates, plastic forks, knives, spoons, plastic cups, stuff that you can throw in a burn barrel whenever you're done with it and not have to worry about wasting those precious resources of water and energy to heat that water and make hot water, all of that stuff. You can just throw that stuff away, or, if it's paper rather than plastic, you could even compost it and use it to make next year's carrots. Medications. The vast majority of Americans take some sort of prescription medication. While my ultimate recommendation is what can you do to get off of that, to release yourself from that dependency, which is normally diet, exercise, getting out, sunshine on your skin, things like that. It's not always possible. So talk to your doctor. See if you can get a 90-day supply. Just call them up. Be like, hey, doc, I'll just want to get a supply of these set back just in case something happens. And if they don't agree to that, it might be time to look for another physician. Other than that, your basic Tylenol, ibuprofen, tummy meds, Band-Aids, and all of that counts too. And don't forget about, your trauma kit. I really like the ones from Refuge Medical. They have no clue I exist. But if you get a Bearfac for each person in your house, you'll be able to handle just about any trauma situation that you can imagine. Then we need to talk about your family life. What are you doing every day to improve your relationship with your children, with your wife? Because that's important. And this isn't just like, tactical preparedness stuff. Just come here, let me show you something. See this rock garden here? We brought in all of this rock. We had to wash every single rock in here. We did a ton of work setting this up to give us something that's just cool to look at, that we enjoy. And that's not tactical. It's not super survival or cool or fun. But you know what? It was a lot of work. And me and my wife and my kids, we really enjoyed doing it. We had a good time out here doing hard work together. And at the end, we got something beautiful to look at. So improving that relationship with you and your family doesn't always have to be the cool tactical stuff. So yeah, look at stuff like that. Just improve your quality of life around home. It doesn't have to be tactical or cool or awesome or high speed. It could be something like learning how to cook a badass meal for your family. That's actually really cool, because then you get to eat a badass meal. And what if in that badass meal you incorporated some of the stuff that you would use for your preparedness rations, which is what you should have been stocking anyway. Learning how to cook from scratch is probably the absolute most valuable survival skill that you will ever have. So yeah, there is my ultra generic, it depends answer to this whole thing that we're trying to accomplish. So take what is useful to you and then ignore the rest of it. Meanwhile, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing I've always done. Whatever that next right thing is, I'm going to try to do that. Whatever the next right thing is to increase, make me healthier, wealthier, smarter, stronger, better. And that's if we're being honest, that's the primary thing that we're trying to accomplish here on this entire YouTube channel. And I hope that you can join me in that, because Lord knows I need plenty of help. Well, anyway, until next time, y'all be safe.